Pull yourself up a chair and join us at the Energy Roundtable.
Welcome to a special Halloween edition of the Energy Roundtable. Joined, as always, by my spooky co-host, Lisa Katz. Lisa, welcome to I wanted to go somewhere else with that, but welcome to Energy Roundtable.
Thank you, Matt. I guess I should probably say trick or treat.
Trick or treat, yeah. So lots of news, lots of things happening. Let's get right in. Why don't I go first? I will. Both my articles are from smartenergydecisions.com, which is a favorite of mine. And so this news article, the headline is Japan sets a 36 to 38% renewable energy sourcing target, which is a very accurate target. So there's probably a lot of thought that went into it. So just last week, the government of Japan released their new target, which is for the national electricity mix. So by 2030, they want to be 36 to 38% renewable energy sources. And it was just approved by cabinet. And so they break it down a little bit more. So they want 5% from wind, 14 to 16% from solar, 11% from hydro, 5% from biomass, which is one of the things that kind of stuck out to me was 5% from biomass. And then they're very pragmatic. They also know that, coal is going to go down to 19%. So they're not talking about eliminating it. LNG will be 20%. And nuclear was in here somewhere, but I don't remember where it is. Anyway, so kind of some really realistic targets around. Nuclear is 20 to 20%. So really kind of good targets. But what they've done is they had a target and they've upped the target. So they're stretching themselves. So kind of cool, kind of exciting, kind of pragmatic, right? Some people are kind of pie in the sky with this stuff. So
yeah,
good to hear somebody really has some kind of realistic and well thought out targets. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the fact that it's a little bit of a stretch is, I think, a little bit of a thumbs up, too. I think we all have to stretch ourselves, especially because everything's moving so quickly these days, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So my first article is from the paper that I get delivered to my front door every day, the Toronto Star. Actually, it's technically my second article is from there, too. The title is EU Hydrogen Firms Drawn to Quebec. I actually happen to know that this is a thing because working with a couple of our clients, they're actually talking to us about different hydrogen projects in Quebec. And of course, it's because of the abundance of cheap hydroelectric power that's making it so interesting and attractive for people. Interestingly enough, it's also been a fairly attractive place for cryptocurrency miners and data centers as of late. And of course, it's now attracting European green hydrogen producers. So the thought process is, which is kind of interesting, people are going to come over here, they're going to have their hydrogen facilities, they're going to generate green hydrogen, and then they're going to ship it back off to Europe where it's going to be used. So interesting for a couple of reasons, because, well, obviously Europe is trying to decarbonize probably a little bit faster than we are. There's a lot of interest there, and people are willing to pay the premium. A little bit disappointing in a way that, we in Canada are doing it in a sense, like part of me, like that whole buy local mentality, like if we've got all of these available resources, like it'd be nice to green Canada. And obviously we've talked about this previously. This whole global transition is going to have to take place literally globally, where we're all relying on different provinces and states and countries to finally get to net zero. But I don't know. I would like to see more of it happening in Canada before it goes off to Europe, personally. And then what was interesting is, let me see here. So they were just also talking because of the price of power. It's home to 50 power-intensive data centers for companies including Amazon, Microsoft, and the province also has large contracts to export its clean electricity to New York and Massachusetts. Again, I'd like to keep it in Canada, but okay. And then the province's cryptocurrency mining boom hit a wall when a moratorium was imposed and new rules that followed did little to revive it. of an extra 300 megawatts allocated to new clients from the industry. In 2019, only 22 megawatts have been taken up, according to Hydro-Quebec. So anyways, we know that they have cheap power. They obviously have excess power. And again, it's kind of a thumbs up and thumbs down for me all at the same point, all at the same time. Big advocate for the green hydrogen piece, but would love to keep it in Canada if we could.
I'm a 2 thumbs up for this. I saw this same article, and I was intrigued by it. I think, we're an energy export company, right? In our country, sorry. And so whether we're exporting it to the US, whether we're exporting it to Europe, I think it's cool that we're thinking outside the box. And it's not only is it cheap and available, surplus, it's also clean with all the hydroelectric they have, right? And so, it makes it truly green electricity. As you know, I'm a cryptocurrency, fan, kind of following that space. Part of the black mark on that space is the energy footprint, especially when it's from carbon sources. So the hydroelectric piece is important there. But I mean, we're an energy export country, and so this is just another. Let's lean into this. We're figuring out how to do it in oil and gas. Let's also lean into this and figure out how to. So I'm excited by it. I'm curious what the new federal cabinet minister of environment, the former Greenpeace, was he a Greenpeace activist? Anyways, what he will say of this. Will he squash it? Like the fears are he's going to squash everything progressive, but I'm excited by this. So it'll be cool to see. I'm curious, like, how do they actually ship hydrogen? Are it in those kind of? Is it liquefied? It must be liquefied. It must be. Anyway,
I'm assuming it is. But I think there's two things. I'll just add to this. So the sad part is you'll see when you get to my next article why I'm kind of giving it a bit of a thumbs down in terms of the export piece. But then the other thing that I'm thinking about, and I'm trying to remember where it is now. Martin was telling me that somewhere in the U.S. they're generating a ton of biomass, like pellets and chips and things like that are also being shipped off to Europe. But whenever I think about a renewable fuel being transported somewhere, I always think about what other, issues are there in the transportation side of things that are also affecting climate, right? So what type of ship is this going on, and what type of engines is the ship being driven by, right? And is it? Yeah, it's making it maybe worth it to some degree, but you're also adding a carbon footprint to that transportation side, right?
The inverse. Put yourself in the shoes of the Europeans who, they can go east instead of across the Atlantic and come west. They can go east, and Mr. Putin has his hand on the valve, right? And so he could close that valve at any time. Yes, there's no ships involved, but it's carbon based, and somebody could close that valve.
Very true.
I like it from a global resiliency play. Part of that hydrogen may go to flying planes, and that's my next article. And this one, I'm in quite a few planes and like to fly, and I know it's certainly GHG emissions heavy. So this article was very exciting for that reason, and because my ancestry goes back to the Netherlands, and this story is about a flight that is planned, a first commercial hydrogen/electric flight planned between London and Rotterdam. So Rotterdam is one of the major cities in the Netherlands. And the goal of this company is to have a first commercial flight that is 100% hydrogen/electric passenger aircraft from Rotterdam to London. They're not sure of the flight path yet. That they're still working through that. The company is called Zero Avia. It's a bunch of Dutch companies in the Rotterdam, Hague area, and they're looking to get this route going by the end of 2024. And so it's kind of that's a realistic timeline. That's 3 years away, and trying to find a viable pathway for emissions-free air travel. So we've had a lot of advances in air travel. Is this the next one where we get to hydrogen electric hybrids? Only time will tell. But if we can get there, that'll be good for Greta Thunberg. She can come to conferences again.
That's right.
But it's an exciting opportunity. So if I could do three thumbs up for this article. very exciting for me.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thumbs up. Interesting that a major airline was not or isn't involved, because the exposure that would create would be outstanding, right? Like, it would really be amazing.
Yeah, that's a great observation. Yeah, I'm sure somebody will get on board at some point, but you're right. The biggest name is something called Royal Schiphol Group, which I think is tied to the Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. So but yeah, no big, Lufthansa or KLM or anybody like that. So great observation.
Well, their loss.
That's right.
All right. So my next article, again from the Toronto Star: how the electricity sector can move toward net zero. So for those of you, some of you may have seen our energy news post. I think this was from last week, or actually maybe earlier this week, about the Independent Electricity System Operator, IESO, report on the future of natural gas generation in Ontario, that is concluding that it's not feasible to phase out natural gas as an electricity source before 2030. And the IESO has been receiving a lot of flack about this. There's been a lot of discussion in the news, a lot of exposure here. And this is, of course, because of the retirement of the Pickering nuclear station that's supposed to happen in 2025. And essentially what this is doing is it's creating a bit of a problem, because we're looking at the increased need for electricity because of, obviously, the phase out of the nuclear station, increased demand as Ontario recovers from COVID-19, and obviously more electrification that is happening, including, Trudeau's announcement where he wants more electric cars. I'm trying to remember the percentage now, if it's 30 or 50% of electric cars being sold on the road by 2025, I think it is, because I think that date was moved up, if memory serves me correct. So, interesting. And obviously there's a lot more carbon that's being emitted from those natural gas fired power plants. So there's the article is suggesting that, at the top of the list to try to decarbonize this and get away from, because we do have goals still to be net zero by 2030, I think it is, that we should step up our efforts to develop and integrate DERs, or distributed energy resources, into the mix. And the article talks a lot about the fact that, well, first of all, there's nearly 5,000 megawatts of existing DERs in Ontario, which is equivalent to 15% of the current installed capacity for the province. And of course, they are very quick to mention, electrification technologies such as wind and solar and that sort of thing. Which, when I first read it, I was like, oh, boo, like, come on, like, there's more to DERs than that. But then I got excited, because there is this little blurb that says, ironically, natural gas can also play a role in the move to net zero. The minister has asked the IESO to consider the possibility of maintaining the generating facilities through the development of utility-scale carbon capture and storage, or by replacing natural gas with green fuels such as hydrogen and renewable natural gas.
Oh, yeah.
So now, coming back to my other article, if we can take a big percentage of the hydrogen that is being potentially exported to Europe from Quebec, if we can bring it to a place like Ontario, keep it, we're neighboring provinces, and we can run CHP behind the meter running on hydrogen, right, or renewable natural gas, I think that would be fantastic, and that would be a big bonus in terms of just the efficiency of the technology behind the meter. Of course, the article falls short of also mentioning that behind the meter natural gas fired CHP, not necessarily renewable natural gas, should be really considered to decarbonize the grid. And, we've talked about it on this show before, but that's all because of marginal emission factors. I was on a Quest CHP call yesterday. We were talking about this very issue. Our friend Akhil Zaidi from Enbridge was also talking about it, who's very passionate about the subject. So there's a little bit missing from the article, but overall, I was happy at least that renewable fuels were also being part of the discussion, at least from an article's context. So
that was in the Star?
That was in the Star, yep.
Cool. And anybody who's looking for some supplemental content, shameless plug for episode 16, going way back in the life of Energy Radio, episode 16 from February of 2020. We did have Akhil Zaidi of Enbridge on, and there's two elements in that podcast that have always stuck out to me. One is this notion of marginal emissions factor, and we're getting a little bit into the bug dust of the electrical grid wherever you are, but the grid is always a stack of resources based on a bunch of different factors, but typically cost. And so you have, the base load, and then you stack resources, and the last resources on are typically the first resources to come off. And that's, when you displace power, that's what you're displacing, that marginal. And in Ontario, that marginal power is made from, relatively speaking, inefficient natural gas-fired cogeneration. So they emit more per kWh or per megawatt hour compared to CHP. So that's thesis number one. Thesis number two is Akhil Zaidi's understanding of the fact that the natural gas infrastructure in Ontario is 3 or 4 times that of the electrical infrastructure. So going to heat all from electricity is going to result in more gas emissions if we go too far too quickly. I think that's the important part. I think there is a way to get there, and I think what the article is saying is let's just go in a progressive way so that at every move we are driving emissions down, not going too far down electrification and then having to run our gas plants balls to the wall all the time. So,
yeah,
cool.
There is also, by the way, Power Advisory had done a report also on marginal emission factors. It's a great report. For those of you that have not seen it, feel free to reach out to us, or maybe I'll see if I can drop Mark an email with the link, and you guys can check it out that way. But if you're interested in educating yourselves more on the subject, check out, as Matt said, episode 16. You said, Matt?
16, yeah.
Or this Power Advisory report, which I'll try to have Mark drop in the links. Awesome.
Very cool. Good stuff. Great to hear that alternative fuels are getting their day in court, or their day in the sun. So moving from all of that important stuff, as we mentioned, it is a Halloween-inspired roundtable as we record this on the 28th of October. And we have our good friend Mark here, who has a very great mustache. Mark, what's the story with the mustache?
How's it going?
Good.
Good, Mark. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. My wife and I decided to go as like a 1980s inspired tag team combo when it was called the WWF. That was sort of my era of, as a kid watching it, right? We don't have a name yet, but I'll let you know once we come up with it. So
you have not fallen trap to the cliche couple's costume of the year, which is dress like your spouse. You did not succumb to that, did you?
No, that seems to be every year, I think, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Okay.
I don't know, maybe.
I'm also excited to see what happens come November, because I'm wondering, is Mark going to get rid of this part, like the handlebars? He's going to grow a very big, bushy mustache. I'm trying to remember what he looked like last year, and actually I can't remember. So I'm eager to see this.
I think we have to do. This is off topic, but we have to do. I think we should do a concerted effort at CEM this year for Movember.
Oh, that would be fun.
I realize it's late, but I'm willing to lean in on the vulnerability and give it a try myself.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. This can easily just work itself into November, right? So, and I'll keep the stash going. It's funny, actually, I've never had a mustache up until this year. Like it was always, I had a full beard normally, and like a mustache with the beard, but never on its own. So I still laugh every time I look at myself in the mirror. I still laugh. So
love it. All right, so, what do you got for us in our face-off?
Yeah, we're going to get a little, well, not really off topic. Well, it is off topic from what you're talking about, but it's on point with Halloween. So our topic is going to be immortality, living forever. So I looked up a couple characters. Deadpool apparently is 800 years old, which I didn't know about. So any of the comic book fans, they might be like, well, actually, he's 802. They're going to come at me, right? So, and then through folklore and stuff, you got like vampires, and it's said to be immortal, although the sun can kill them in certain. Yep, here we go. Certain times here. I got my quarter, heads or tails. Lisa, I'll let you call it.
Okay, I'll call heads as usual.
And it is heads. So,
yay!
Do you want the pros or cons of living forever?
I will take the cons.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yep. Matt's surprised. I can see well, no, some people can actually see this. I forget, but I think a lot of people listen to it via audio. So Matt was surprised that I was choosing the cons. So why do I think it's a con? Well, let me start with, can you imagine if you have the ability to live on forever and, you start with parents and then you have children and then you see their grandchildren and you're doing it all over again and you're seeing all of these people die. Like, think about the loss of like your friends and family and how lonely that would eventually become. I don't know, that the whole idea of seeing loved ones grow old and die just seems so terrible to me. I couldn't deal with it, I don't think, over and over again. It's hard enough as it is in our normal lives. I think the other piece is, like, when we think about it, like, would we have the brain capacity to be thinking from a memory perspective and remember who our parents were or where we were from or our first kids perhaps, or, any of that stuff? Like, I don't know. I don't know if we'd have the brain capacity for that. The other piece, I think, is boredom. Like, you can do anything you want because you can go skydiving and deep seawater diving, and you can maybe get into an F1 racing car and, get on a motorcycle and go 400 kilometers an hour or something silly, right? And you're not going to die. Like, you're going to be fine. So you're going to do all of this stuff and you're just going to be terribly bored, right? Like, and then you have the other issue where you have this unlimited amount of time to do whatever you want. So, at some point, do you put something off to the following day? Because you don't have to worry about, living your best life today and for the next, however many years we have left. And then I think, life is already hard enough from a kind of a happiness and a financial perspective, in the sense that, can you imagine making just that whole idea that you have to make more money, and then you have to keep yourself happy over and over and over and over and over again? I don't know. Seems a little bit crazy. And then everything in the natural world dies. So, why fight that, I guess, is the tail piece to it. But I will actually finish off with an actual Talmud story. So for those of you who do not know what the Talmud is, it's a collection of writings that basically cover the full gamut of Jewish law and tradition. And basically, it's a story where Honi the circle maker, he lived in the 1st century BCE. He was the first, he fell into a deep sleep and miraculously woke up 70 years later. Before he fell asleep, he had watched someone plant a carob tree sapling, and therefore he had the rare opportunity to see that sapling grow into a mature tree. But Honi felt the loneliness of outliving everyone of his generation. So with no living friends, he told God he wanted to die, and God obliged. So the lesson that the Talmud offers is, of Honi's story, is, let me have either friends or death. The end.
Wow. That was deep. And I think you're disqualified because you went over 2 minutes, but no. I'm just kidding.
Wow, there's a lot there. I can't help but think of the Queen song, "Who Wants to Live Forever?"
Yeah.
Although I think that's helping Lisa's point, but the song keeps running through my mind. I think Lisa's point kind of comes from a place of, like, I think that the fundamental construct needs to be, well, what are we here to do? And so Lisa's all about, okay, well, and I'm not saying this is Lisa's worldview because I don't believe it is, but it's all about, okay, well, how does this work for me? Like, I'm going to get bored. I'm going to suffer because everybody else is dying. So I approach it from a different perspective and say, well, what if our job is to impact others? So if you have forever, think of the impact that you can have. Think of the impact you can have on the world. Think on the impact you can have on the people around you, because you don't run out of time. And you live forever. And so, history is the best student. If we learn from history, then we're not going to repeat it. So as the world goes on, we can learn from history and we can take that wisdom, and the next time history comes around, you lived in the first Spanish flu, you can apply that, history to the COVID pandemic. So we get wiser, and we can apply more of that wisdom to the world around us as we live longer and longer. And so I think we can have a bigger impact on the world because we just have more time. We can do a lot more things. We can do all the things in the world for us, but we can also have a bigger impact on those around us. So I think that's what's exciting about living forever. And if back to Mark's starting point of the superheroes, like, the superheroes live forever. Like if it's good for them, it must be good for the rest of us too. You think of Wonder Woman, right? She lived forever, and she could help people through many different. I don't know if she was totally immortal, but anyways, I think we could do a lot of good in the world if we could have a longer runway for our lives.
Interesting. I would like maybe like an additional 100 years or so. Maybe there could be like maybe we could bargain, right? And just be like, well, give me another 100 years, and just, But yeah, I think I'm gonna give this one to Lisa, just because I think it would be hard losing all of your family, and then you're like, now what? So, there's pros and cons for both sides, but yep, I'll give that one to Lisa.
So Lisa did a better job. I agree. She had the better argument. She did a lot better job at filling in the assumption. Like, you didn't give us or the rest of that context. And so because when I heard it, and then I heard her go down her thing, I thought, well, I just assumed everybody lived forever, but she assumed it was just us and everybody else died. So she did a better job.
I see.
Painting the picture, at telling the story, and very, very, very great topic, Mark. I appreciate it on this spooky weekend that we're approaching. So, and if you think about it, to your point about another 100 years, a lot of what we do every day at CEM, we're trying to make the world a better place, trying to move towards a more functional world, and hopefully less, pollutants in the air, and all of us get maybe not the 100 years you're looking for, but maybe all of us get a couple more years as a result. So all good stuff. Thank you both. Another fun week of the Energy Roundtable Halloween edition. We'll see you next week in November. Thank you.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.
Bye.